right, so today we're doing 2.2, which is adding and subtracting polynomials. And our goal today is I can add and subtract polynomial expressions. Now, what we're going to do first of all is what on earth is a polynomial? Well, you've actually worked with polynomials, you just didn't know that's what they were called. So first of all, polynomials are mathematical expressions that don't have equal signs. So actually what we were doing yesterday were polynomial expressions as well. So example, if I have 2x, it's only one term, and it is a polynomial, and it actually has a fancy name called monomial. Mono standing for one. So one term's called a monomial. Here I have 3x minus 5, two terms, a 3x and a negative 5. So that is called a binomial. And the next one has three terms, 7x cubed minus x squared plus 10, and we call that a trinomial. Now, there are other polynomials that have even more than three terms in them, and we just call them polynomials because, uh, what do you call a seven-term item? It just, these are the three that we spend the most time with, so that's why we want you to know that it's a monomial, binomial, and a trinomial. Now, when we're adding or subtracting polynomials, it's almost the same as collecting like terms. So it's not really that difficult. If you can do collecting like terms and adding and subtracting them, no big deal when it comes to adding or subtracting polynomials. So this is what happens. First of all, we're going to remove the brackets. So they're taking what we were doing before and they're putting brackets around them. So we're going to remove the brackets. Okay, and we're going to change any double signs at that point as well. And then we're going to add and subtract like terms. So really only two steps, three if you include changing any double signs. So the first question says, for example, add. So it's asking us to add these two polynomials. The two polynomials, this is the first one. Okay, notice all they've done is they put brackets around something that had two terms, and they're adding another binomial to that. Okay, so if I follow what it says remove brackets, change any double signs. So when I remove the bracket from the first one, I end up with a 2x minus a 4x squared. And when I take off the second one, and I don't have any double signs here, so I'm lucky. So I have a positive 4x squared, and I have a negative 2. So now what I'm at step 2, add and subtract like terms. So again, I go through and I find them. So I have a 2x, and I have no other x terms, so I have a 2x. And then I look to see the next one I have is an x squared term, and I have another x squared term, so I actually have 0 x squared, so I'm not going to write that down because I'm just going to have to get rid of it. And finally, I'm left with a negative 2. So when I'm adding a polynomial, in most cases, I will have another polynomial left over. Let's do another example. So this time I have a trinomial plus another trinomial. So step number 1 is to take off the brackets. So I'm taking off the first bracket, and so that's no big deal. And now when I take off the second bracket, I do have a little bit big deal because if I just take this off, what's going to happen is this bracket's gone and I have a plus and a minus together. And I can't have double signs. So if I have a positive and negative, the signs are different. So it becomes a negative x cubed plus x. So now I'm at the second step and I'm gathering like terms. So what things go together? Well, I'm going to start with the x cubed terms first. So I have a negative x cubed and another negative x cubed. So negative 1 and another negative 1. So I have a negative 2x cubed. And x terms, I have a positive 4x and a positive 1x. So I have a positive 5x. And last but not least, I go and see if I've got everything. Oh, I have a plus 5. Okay. Now, normally what we do is we start in descending power. So I always want to start with the highest power of x. So that's why I chose the 3, the x cubed first, followed by the x, followed by my constant term. So let's try going and doing this time. We're going to be subtracting. Now, subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. Okay, but really what you're doing is when you remove the brackets, you're going to change the sign of all terms in the polynomial you are subtracting. So if I look at this one, you can see I have my two polynomials with brackets around them. This one here, this last one, is the one I'm subtracting. So according to this, I'm going to change all of these signs. Right now, this is a positive x, it's going to be a negative x. A positive 4x squared is going to be a negative 4x squared. So that's what I'm going to do for my first step. So I take the bracket off the first polynomial, nothing changes for it. And when I take the bracket off with the second one, I'm going to use, it's a positive x, so negative x. Positive 4x, negative 4x squared. So now that the brackets are off, all I'm doing is taking the like terms and putting them together. So I'm going to again start with my x squareds because it's the highest power. So when I do that, I end up with a negative 8x squared. And if I do my next part, a 2x and a negative x. So 2 minus 1, so I have a positive 1x left over there. Now an x squared and an x to the power of 1 do not belong together, so I am finished that question. And let's do one more example together. This time I have 3 polynomials. I could have as many as I wanted. Some are being added, some of them are being subtracted. So let's look a little bit closer at this one. Okay, so the first one, I'm going to take the bracket off of it right away. Now the second one, polynomial, it tells me I'm subtracting it, and I'm only subtracting this one, okay? So when I take the bracket off the second polynomial, right now it's a positive 2x squared, so it's going to be a negative 2x squared. It is a negative 2, so the opposite of that would be a positive 2. And then my third polynomial is being added, so all I have to do is just take off the bracket of it. So I have a plus 3x squared plus 9. Again, we're at the final step. We gather like terms. I have x squareds, so that's the first thing I'm going to do. And remember, I'm taking the sign with them. So I have a positive 1 minus 2 plus 3. So I have a positive 2x squared left. I have no x terms, however, I have quite a few constants, a negative 5, a positive 2, and a positive 9. So I have 11, take away 5, so I have a positive 6. Right? So x squared and a 6 are not like terms, so I am finished that one. Okay, so what you can do tomorrow in class is some work from the textbook, as well as there may be also some handouts, but I'll let you know.